Full and uncut versions available on Patreon. Check in the description below. Greetings, Pokemaniacs! Duuz-Diz-Din here with the first part of what I'd like to call Ultimate Pokemon Mania Sunday, which was something I always had in the works, but it was something I was holding off because the initial plan was have the Pokemon Adventures manga first, then have Pokemon anime, and then have the Pokemon games. Or would it be games, then manga, then anime? Regardless, I ain't got enough time in the day to be doing all that, so I've decided to just bump it down to just doing both the manga and the anime, which should also tell you that I'm basically insane, because that is a lot of content. Why not just do the Pokemon Adventures manga? Because I can't let myself have it easy. I'm just dumb like that. So they will be spread into two separate videos. This video will be the first half, Pokemon Adventures, and then later will come the second half with the Pokemon anime, and I mean all the anime. Well, to a certain degree, barring some things that I don't feel is too involved, but maybe you'll say that I'm a wuss for doing it like that. And if so, I most certainly am. Now, this is a request by Steven over on Patreon, so if you want a series to be bumped to the top of the list, become a Patreon member, and you may just very well get your request heard and given top priority. If I should get an influx of Patreon members, then there will be polls. Well, the Patreon members will be able to decide what will be watched first. So without further ado, let's jump into the Pokemon Adventures manga that I have to some degree read, but it has been quite some time. And, well, it's still ongoing. So let's check it out, shall we? Alright, so I'm going with the Viz translation, though I will be popping in and out just to see if there are any major changes that I need to check out, you know? Because I know that there is quite a deal of censorship when it comes to this. Understandable to a certain degree because it involves a lot of, children, but at the same time, it's nice to just kind of check in and see what the differences are, especially when it comes to this different version. Alright, so we'll be checking out the whole of Volume 1. Been really looking forward to this. Pokemon Adventures. Now, that's a great shot of Red, and what is he called in this? Blue or green? He should be called Blue, I think. And I know that in the Japanese version, each chapter is called Versus this Pokemon, but here they give it, much like in the anime, these kind of interesting names. Alright, we pick up in a place called Pallet Town, where some kids are trying to catch a Nidoran? I'm actually blanking on the name of the Pokemon. Well, the kids are trying to catch it, saying, "Phooey, it bounced off again. My turn, my turn. Do you really think you've got a chance? Oh, be quiet. I'm gonna catch this Pokemon and make it my personal pet. Watch this." But the Pokeball just bounces right on off. The little girl says, "Huh? It bounced off." Enter Red, saying, "You can't catch a Pokemon like that. If you want to catch a Pokemon, first you've got to weaken it, then throw the Pokeball." Chapter 1. A glimpse of the glow. And so he sends out Poliwhirl, saying, for instance, try this, go Poliwhirl, give it the water gun. And Poliwhirl does just that. Nidorino, there we go, Nidorino. So it's the second evolution, right? God, I am so out of touch with these type of Pokemon. I've never been a big fan of this line, though. I even have a list handy of the various Pokemon that I'm very into, so if any of them pop up, I'll show them up on screen. But after being doused with the water gun, Nidorino is dizzy. The kids say, "Wow, it looks dizzy." And so Red throws out a Pokeball saying, "Yeah." And now that Nidorino is weak, throw the Pokeball and the capture is done, as it jiggles a little bit. But Red lifts up the Pokeball saying, "Haha, gotcha, Nidorino." All the kids gather around saying, "Cool, that was great, Red." The simplest of simple. We then have a narration saying, "Everybody knows me in Pallet Town, and why not? I'm the best Pokemon trainer around." Oh, geez. The modesty on this kid. Red's narration says, huh? What are Pokemon, you ask? Strange creatures that live in the forest and lake. I don't know how many kinds of Pokemon there are in the world, but I know I'm gonna catch 'em all. Gotta catch 'em all, gotta catch 'em all. Gotta catch 'em all, gotta catch 'em all. And the bug catcher kid comes up saying, hey Red, do you know Professor Oak? Red says, the old guy at the edge of town? What about that weirdo? Oh. I didn't remember. I guess it's not a thing of going over and getting your first Pokemon from him. Then again, you don't necessarily have to get your first Pokemon from a professor. I don't think so. The other kids say, well, people say he knows a whole lot about Pokemon. Maybe he can teach us a thing or two about how to catch them. Red shrugs, saying, you don't need that old nut. I'll teach you everything you need to know. The kids say maybe, but they say Professor Oak taught his grandson to be one of the world's greatest Pokemon trainers. Red questions his grandson. The bug catcher says, yeah, he's been studying overseas for a long time. He just got back. Red says, I don't care who he is. He doesn't stand a chance against me. Oh, are they not childhood friends in this version? Interesting. Red holds up his Pokeball, revealing the Poliwhirl inside, which is kind of cool. The idea of having see-through Pokeballs where you can actually see the Pokemon inside. Then again, I guess that would make sense because how else would you really tell what's inside sometimes? Other kids head off saying, see you tomorrow. Red says, see ya. As he walks off, he says, old Professor Oak, huh? But then he bumps into a man in a black suit. The guy says, hey, watch it, you worm, as he whirls on Red. Red shrieks back, saying, eat. And as he and his buddies stomp off, Red questions, where'd those guys come from? Already encountering Team Rocket. Interesting. Are those great balls they have? Huh. Oh yeah. Okay. Red says, hey. And then he thinks those are Pokeballs. As he wades through the tall grass, he says, they've got to be Pokemon trainers. The Rocket grunts say, it must be hiding in the general area. Do not rest until you find it. Find the Phantom Pokemon. Red, hiding behind a tree, thinks, Phantom Pokemon? Never heard of it. Members of Team Rocket head out, saying, we haven't searched the West Wood yet. Comb it to the last blade. As Red watches them head out, he takes a moment and then says, thanks for the tip, guys, sticking out his tongue. As he races off, he says, that Phantom Pokemon is going to be mine, or my name's not Red. Just in case you didn't know what his name was. Cut to the West Wood, where Red is holding a horde of Pokeballs, dropping a few. Oh, shoot, that might be some of the ones you end up picking up in the game. As he laughs to himself, searching around, he says, great, they didn't get here yet. And where are you, little Phantom Pokemon? And then Spot saying, huh? What's that? Oh, it's blue? Okay, I gotta look up. Yeah, blue. There we go. Just had to make sure. Red says, and who's that? One of those creeps beat me to it, as he spots Blue confronting none other than Mew. Oh man, it's wild to be encountering a Mew this early on, especially considering, there was a way that you could encounter Mew in the game, right? Or was it a special event? I forget. Blue then takes a moment and sends out Charmander, saying, now, Charmander, go. It always gets me. You think Red would have a Charmander, Blue would have a Blastoise, and Green would have a Bulbasaur. How did I say Blastoise? It should be Squirtle. I should have said Squirtle. Red's shocked, saying a Pokemon? He's a Pokemon trainer. You doy. Most people are Pokemon trainers in this world. Charmander then sends out a torrent of flames, but Mew reacts, countering it with electricity? Does Mew normally have electrical attack? Interesting. I've never actually encountered a Mew in most of the games I play, but I always play in vanilla. I don't do a lot of training or deep searching. Red watches the battle, saying, yeesh, I've never seen a Pokemon battle like this. He then thinks, this Pokemon, that's a Charmander. He then looks at the other one, thinking, but what's that glowing creature? I've never seen anything like it. Well, go Charmander, beat that thing. He's actually cheering on for Blue, but Blue just seems bored by the whole battle. He then says, enough, Charmander, return. Red questions, what the? And Charmander gives a nod and recedes into his Pokeball. As Blue catches the ball, Red calls out, what are you doing? You almost had it, but Blue just gives him a look, and Red just shirks back angrily. He then brings out, my turn, go Poliwhirl, water gun, and Poliwhirl sends out a torrent of water. Mew spots this and then just simply attacks Poliwhirl, downing it in one hit. Red calls out to Poliwhirl in shock as Mew just flies past him. As Red goes over to Poliwhirl, he says, Poliwhirl, come on, snap out of it, buddy. Blue looks down on Red, both figuratively and literally, saying, are you blind? Didn't you notice anything while you were watching us fight? I could tell right away that there was a vast difference in strength. That's why I stopped the fight. Know your limitations or you'll only beat yourself. Remember that. And he walks away chuckling. Red is in shock, saying, you mean I actually lost? You know, it's interesting. Gary in the anime was, you know, a little up his own butt. But at least here you can see that Blue has a lot of knowledge. He's very studious. He's well trained and all that. You know, Gary doesn't really get to that point until much later on in the Pokemon series. But both Red and Ash have that same kind of cockiness in the beginning, thinking that, oh man, I'll be a pro from the get-go. But the world is vast, kid. Got a lot to learn. Enter the Rocket Grunts, looking around saying, the field, it's all burned up. What happened here? They spot Red heading over to him as one of the grunts yells, answer me, worm, what have you done? The others say, ignore him, the Mew is what counts. It might still be nearby. And they all race off, Red not even giving them the time of day as he still looks over his Poliwhirl. As Red heads back to Pallet Town at daybreak, he spots the Oak Pokemon Research Lab. He says to himself, so this is old Professor Oak's lab. He brings out his Poliwhirl and the Pokeball still knocked out, saying, they say he's a mean old geezer, always kept away. And I guess the only place I'll learn to be a great Pokemon trainer is here. He goes up trembling, but manages to feel himself and ring the doorbell. He rings it over and over again, but doesn't get a response. He questions, anybody home? But as he goes for the handle, he says, it's open. It's Chapter 2. Bulbasaur, come home. Red enters into Professor Oak's lab, and he looks around, saying, oh, wow. I had no idea there were so many Pokemon, but he spots one on a table, glancing over, picks it up saying, what's this one? He reads the name on the ball saying, Bulbasaur. It has a bud on its back. Cool. He brings out his Poliwhirl saying, look at this Poliwhirl. And the two Pokemon look at each other from the balls, which is pretty interesting, all things considered. Suddenly, Bulbasaur starts to get a little freaked out. Suddenly, the door behind him opens and enter Professor Oak, who immediately stomps up to Red saying, you Poke Thief. Red says, wait, no, I mean but he bumps into a console, and Oak says, no, you idiot. Red looks at the button he pressed, going, what? But suddenly, all the Pokeballs open, and all the Pokemon inside bound forth, freaking out Red and Professor Oak. Oak turns to Red saying, now look what you've done. Red says, I didn't mean to, but a Pidgey flies by, pooping right on Oak's face. Oak gets mad as Red says, yuck. But Oak yells at him saying, just get them back. And Red scrambles to get all the Pokemon back in their balls. We cut to much later, where Red says, how many more? He huffs and he puffs. While Oak says, don't tell me that some of them escape. Red tries to go racing off, saying, I'll go out and get him. But Oak grabs him, saying, oh, no, you don't, Poke Thief. Red says, but I'm sorry I came into your Pokemon lab uninvited. I'm sorry I let your Pokemon loose, but we've got to get them back, or Oak says, it's too late for that. It'll be dark before we find them all. But Red says, we can't just give up. I'm going after them. But Oak manages to catch up on his bike, saying, you think you can do it all by yourself? You won't know what to look for. Red smiles, but Oak then says, after we get them all back, you'd better believe that I'm turning you in. Red says, yes, sir. Oh, they then spot a Meowth. They're all the way out in Viridian City. Oak says, here, kitty kitty. Red goes, now. Gotcha. Only one left as they captured the Meowth in the Pokeball. Oak says, phew. If I'd known I'd be chasing them all the way to Viridian City, I have decided I'm too old for this. Red says, the last one is Bulbasaur. Oak says, yes, but that one. Red says, there it is. But the Bulbasaur dashes off as it heads into the Viridian City gym. As Red says, it's going in there. They head into the Viridian City gym that is labeled closed as Red says, hurry. As they open it up, they see nothing but cobwebs around and a bust of the gym leader, Giovanni, that Red kind of shirks back from. Oak says, where would it go? Oak then spots the Bulbasaur in the darkness saying, oh, there you are. Come to daddy, little. But the Bulbasaur tackles Oak in the stomach. Oak doubles over saying, Now really, I'm your trainer. But Red comes up saying, don't be afraid, Bulbasaur. Of course you're nervous. It's the first time you've been outside. You were kept separate from the others in the Pokemon lab, weren't you? I'll bet you've never seen another living being besides the old prof here. Huh. That's weird. Is he kind of implying that it was kept isolated right out of the egg? Weird. Oak watches as Red handles the Bulbasaur pretty well, and even manages to get Bulbasaur comfortable enough to allow Red to touch it. Red pets Bulbasaur, who purrs and says, yeah, that's a good boy. Are you hungry? Suddenly there's a weird noise, and everyone reacts as Red picks up the Bulbasaur. They turn around to find a Machoke, as Oak says, it's a wild Machoke. The Machoke lunges at Red as Red scrambles away. As Red's about to be decked into schnoz, Bulbasaur uses Vine Whip in order to restrain the Machoke. Red turns saying, Prof, did you see that? What's the Bulbasaur's best attack? But Oak is kinda passed out from the encounter. Red slaps his head into his hand saying, oh great, what next? Wait, if it's got a bulb, but the Machoke manages to break free from Bulbasaur's vines, and the two very narrowly manage to avoid being slammed into. As Red and Bulbasaur are backed into a corner, Red says, there's no way. But Red then notices light coming in from the shutter behind him. He goes, wait, but what if... I guess I've gotta try this. He opens up the shutter and the light hits Bulbasaur's bulb. And then Bulbasaur then uses Hyper Beam, just kind of instinctively. At least I think it's Hyper Beam. The Machoke is literally cooked and falls to the ground. Oak says, you knew that the knew about the Bulbasaur's Solar Beam. Solar Beam was what it was, I meant to say. I know Pokemon. Red turns saying, no. But I figured, plants turn sunlight into energy. This guy has plant on his back, so Oak says, you just figured it out. And he laughs and laughs and laughs, much to Red's confusion. But as they manage to get Bulbasaur back in his Pokeball, Oak says, the Bulbasaur is yours. He seems to have taken quite a liking to you. Red says, you mean... really? Cool. He then turns to Oak saying, but first, I gotta clear something up. I did not break into your Pokemon lab to steal Pokemon. I only wanted you to teach me to be a better Pokemon trainer. You see, yesterday, and he fills in Oak about Mew. Oak ponders this, saying, I see. But do you know what it takes to be great? Red questions, huh? Oak says, knowing a lot of clever tricks, having a Pokemon powerhouse in your arsenal? Is that what you think makes a great Pokemon trainer? Red thinks about it, and Oak says, if you do, you're wrong. What counts is what's in your heart. Aw, that connection you had with Bulbasaur, that feeling from deep within, that's the key to becoming a great Pokemon trainer. What's your name, son? He says, Red, sir, and Oak hands over a Pokédex, saying, here, Red, this is a Pokédex, an encyclopedia of Pokemon. Whenever you meet and learn about a new Pokemon, enter your data here. By the time you've input the data on all the Pokemon, you may well have become one of the truly great trainers. Yeah, once you get all of the Pokemon, all of them. Red thinks about this, saying, wow, me, one of the great. And they head back home. We then have Red having a flashback to another conversation he had with Oak, who says, Red, if you expect to input any valuable data into that Pokédex, you can't stay here. You have to expand your territory. Why not start with Viridian Forest north of the city? You're bound to find Pokemon that you've never seen before. Besides, that happens to be where... He then says, ha, never mind, as he laughs and turns away. Now, Red, did you tell your mom where you were going? Red heads off saying, oops, I was in such a hurry that I didn't bring very many Pokeballs. Oh well, these will have to do. And I guess he heads into Viridian Forest. He looks at the two Pokemon he has, saying, I don't know what kind of Pokemon we're gonna meet, but with Poliwhirl and Bulbasaur, we're bound to catch 'em all. Alrighty then, let's go. As he brings Poliwhirl and Bulbasaur out, they race off into Chapter 3, The Secret of Kangaskhan. Alright. Oh, but we see elsewhere in Viridian Forest, Blue is there with his Charmander. He then hears some rustling in the brush and says, Charmander, go. Charmander fires off a blast from his tail and manages to hit what was in the bush. He manages to down a Venomoth, thinking so, Venomoth. Blue brings out his Pokédex, saying, I already caught one. I'm not going to read the description. I've never been a big fan of Venomoth. Blue thinks to himself, will you come out? I guess he's still trying to catch that Mew. Meanwhile, we pick up with Red searching around, saying, where the heck did it go? Stupid Caterpie. He's looking around with his Poliwhirl, but hears some rustling in the brush, saying, oh ho ho, go Poliwhirl. Poliwhirl cries out, and as Red rounds the corner, he says, did you catch it? Did you? Only to see Poliwhirl downed, saying, what? Poliwhirl. Blue calls out, so this Poliwhirl has a trainer. Red then turns to see Charmander, and next to Charmander, Blue. Blue says, we thought it was a wild Pokemon, so we attacked. Don't take it personally, he says with a smug smile. Red says, you did this to my Poliwhirl, you'll pay. Oh, you going for the fist. But while Red tries to go for a punch, Blue easily manages to catch it, saying, ridiculous. We're both in this forest to capture Pokemon. We're bound to cross paths sometime, aren't we? But they both seem to kind of realize something as Red says, hey, you're that guy. Okay, so he didn't even realize it was the same guy from before. God, I must have sped through these chapters before because I don't remember some of this. Well, some of it's kind of familiar. I mean, I guess it shows that both Red and Ash were both hot-headed back in the day. Red says, why do you keep... But suddenly they hear this crashing sound. Red looks around saying, what's that? While Blue says, so it's come at last. Oh! Suddenly a massive Kangaskhan comes out of the forest. Red freaks out while Blue says, I've been waiting for you, Kangaskhan. I heard you were around here somewhere, but you've been testing my patience. Charmander, attack! Charmander sends out a torrent of fire. The Kangaskhan is engulfed as Blue pulls out his Pokédex saying, I can't wait to add its data to my... But Red notices saying, hey, that's a Pokédex, as he pulls out his own. But Blue starts laughing, and Red turns saying, what's so funny? Blue says, my granddad told me he gave a Pokédex to someone, so it was you, huh? And he laughs and laughs and laughs. Red says, granddad? You mean... Professor Oak? Blue says that why he'd give a Pokédex to the likes of you, well, never mind. I'll just show you how it's done. As the Kangaskhan is engulfed in the flames, Red calls out, Charmander, final blow. As Charmander sends out even more fire, the Kangaskhan reels backwards. Blue says that should do it as he brings out a Pokeball and tosses it saying, you're mine. But the Kangaskhan bats it away. Blue says, okay then, one more, and throws another one, but Kangaskhan bats that one away too. Blue says, the fire attack's not strong enough, but Red notices something, thinking, something's wrong. It's strong enough to repel the Pokeball, but it isn't attacking. Red then notices that it's guarding something in its pouch, saying, of course, that's it. Wait, stop the attack. Blue turns angry, saying, no way. This Pokemon is mine. Don't try to steal it from me. Red says, you don't understand. The Kanga is... But Blue ignores him, saying, Charmander, keep fighting. Charmander sends out more fire. Blue says, but... He then says, oh, just get out of my way. Poliwhirl. Blue says, hey, what are you? And Poliwhirl splashes Charmander. Blue gets angry, saying, where do you think you're going, you little... But Red rushes in, saying, are you okay? Your baby, is it all right? As he goes to the Kangaskhan's pouch, Blue questions this, and he sees something wriggle out of the pouch. As Kangaskhan's little baby comes out, Red says, it's hurt. Did a poison Pokemon hurt you? Red pulls out a potion and gives it to the baby, saying, there, all better now. While Blue just watches, Red looks up at the mother Kangaskhan, saying, no wonder you were protecting your pouch. The fire hit it. Your sick baby could have gotten badly hurt. The Kangaskhan gives Red a look and lumbers out into the forest. Blue turns away angry, saying, thanks a lot. If you hadn't butted in, I could have captured it. Red then says with a smile, come on. You know it isn't really winning if your opponent's at a disadvantage. But Blue kind of ignores him, saying, save your slogans. Red says, hey, wait up. My name's Red. What's yours, huh? Well, Blue says, my name is Blue. Now shut up already and leave me alone. Red went from trying to deck Blue in the schnoz to being like, hey, let's be friends. Oh, man. Red says, Blue, okay. Hey, Blue, I'm not losing to you. As Blue just tries to ignore him, Red calls out, you hear me, Blue? I'm gonna win. And Oak, like a creep, is watching from the forest, saying, my grandson and my new protege. I mean, is he really your protege? The path to becoming the greatest Pokemon trainer of all has gotten more competitive. Good luck to you both. Both boys walk away with a smile. We then pick up with Chapter 4, Wanted. Pikachu. Check for any real changes. I keep checking to see if there are any like edits or weird changes that were made. Alright. Oh, Red has already made it all the way to Peter City in the west. Wait, Peter City should be in the north. Weird. And as Red is walking down the street, he sees a mob of people go running by, saying, "Get it, hurry!" And there it goes. Red then notices a pamphlet come fluttering off of one of the walls, talking about a Pikachu wanted for being a mischievous electric mouse. Reward for capture. Peter City Merchants Association. Red says, so that's what all the fuss is about. Guess I'll give him a hand. The townspeople manage to corner the Pikachu. Wild that, I guess this is the alternate version of Pikachu who was also a troublemaker in the anime. The people say, we've got you now, you pest. That's the last time you'll eat my produce. The people go to jump it, saying, get it. But the Pikachu manages to dodge and weave around them and goes for some apples to bite down on them. One of the townspeople come in with a net and go for the capture, saying, now. They manage to get the Pikachu in the net. Pikachu just electrocutes the guy right on the spot and runs off. The people say, hey, it's getting away again. Get it. Red brings out a Pokeball saying, I can't watch any more of this. Yeah, you'd think that most of these people would at least have their own Pokemon. Red says, okay. And says, Bulbasaur, go. The Bulbasaur comes out and confronts the Pikachu. The townspeople saying a Pokemon. And they watch in silence as Red squares off with the Pikachu. The Pikachu sneers and hits Bulbasaur with an electric attack. Townspeople say, oh man, it's no use. But, well, Bulbasaur has the type advantage, as Bulbasaur is completely fine after that attack, much to Pikachu's shock. Red says, now it's our turn. Bulbasaur, attack. Okay, I thought it was maybe Leech Seed or something, as the seed pops out of Bulbasaur's back and hits Pikachu with something. Kinda hard to tell from the art. But Pikachu then falls asleep as Red says, perfect. Start with sleep powder, then finish it with this. Throws a Pokeball and manages to catch a Pikachu just like that. Saying, gotcha. The townspeople say, yay, as Red says, that's how it's done. The townspeople then treat Red to a nice old meal, saying, young man, you've saved us. That pest was ruining our businesses. We wish you'd come a long time ago. In the anime, it was usually the gym leader's job to kind of keep the peace when it came to stuff like that. The people say, where are you from? Red says, I'm from Pallet Town. I keep almost reading it as, I'm Ash from Pallet Town. The people ask, but what brought you here? Red says, want to know? Then just watch while I do this. And he brings up the Pokédex data on Pikachu. I love that it's the old sprites from the game. Red reads it saying, so this wild Pikachu came out of Viridian Forest to live in the city. The townspeople peek in saying, what an awesome device. Man, this was before technology got real rampant over the years. Red says it will be. There are hundreds of Pokemon in the world. Wow, hundreds. So even beforehand, they were just like, yeah, there's hundreds of Pokemon. Are we in the thousands yet? I think we're in the thousands. Once I collect all their data, I'll have a complete Pokédex. Yeah, for a hot minute. But suddenly he feels a rumbling in his pocket. He reaches in saying, hey, cool it, what's with this thing? As he sees that the Pikachu is getting all ornery. He says, well, okay then. He heads out into a field where he sits Pikachu down trying to talk to it, but Pikachu snaps at Red. Red says, come on, don't be so stubborn. How about we try to be friends? Okay, Pikachu? But Pikachu ain't buying it and zaps Red again. And ornery Pikachu are always on the menu, huh? Red says, geez, you look cute, but enter Blue saying, you're taking it easy on that Pikachu, aren't you, Red? Red turns saying, Blue. Blue says, you'll never fill your Pokédex playing around like that. I'm embarrassed to have you for a rival on this quest. Red gets angry and stands up saying, what was that? Blue says, a fight, huh? And almost like a Western, they reach for their Pokeballs as if to draw their guns. That's cool. But before they do anything, Blue says, but first, my impetuous friend, allow me to let you in on something. This town's gym leader, Brock, is looking for someone worthy to fight him. I intend to do so and win the Boulder Badge. Red questions, the Boulder Badge? Yeah, They haven't really set up gym leaders in this, huh? Blue questions, don't you know? The Boulder Badge can boost the attack power of your Pokemon. Oh? Huh. Did badges always do that? I know that later down the line, sometimes boulders have certain special qualities. But Blue says every Pokemon trainer knows that. Yeah, look, I'm kind of a dumbass. I'm sorry. Red curses, saying, well, sorry, yup. And, no good kid shouldn't be saying that. Blue pokes more at Red, saying, so here's my challenge to you. Let's see which of us can win the Boulder Badge first. Of course, it shouldn't be much of a match since you can't even train an electric mouse. Red says, I'll take that challenge and you'll regret it. Blue laughs and says, oh, and one more thing. Brock is a rock Pokemon trainer. Your little electric mouse won't be any good against him. Well, good luck, as he flicks a flyer back at Red. But it's like, dude, you have a Charmander, and Red has a Bulbasaur. He has the type advantage. Well, that is if he has any grass type moves. Red sits down saying, what a jerk. But as he looks at the pamphlet, saying, calling all fighters, Peter City Gym Leader Brock will take on all challengers. Red says, so the next challenge is tomorrow at noon. Let's do it. Blue's gonna be sorry he ever... Oops, almost forgot. The Pokemon I brought with me are low on health. Yeah, he also has a Poliwhirl. Red's good. First thing in the morning, I need to go to a Pokemon Center and get these guys healed. Oh yeah, concept of Pokemon Centers being closed. That's such a weird thing to me. You pick up at the next day at the Pokemon Center that seems to have been utterly demolished, with a notice outside saying, our center was damaged yesterday by unknown vandals. We will reopen when our machines are running again. We apologize for any inconvenience. As we see several people clearing a lot of rubble, I'm like, man, this place got trash. Red says, no way. That means the only one I have who's at full power is this one. He brings out the Pikachu, still ornery. Red races off to the Peter City Gym, and as he enters, he sees a crowd cheering, and Charmeleon, yeah, that's the name, Charmeleon, out attacking. Wow, his Pokemon already evolved. Red's still dirty too. As he spots Blue up in a literal fighting ring, Blue looks back, spotting Red, but an announcement comes out saying, Brock's preliminary round is about to start. Red says, oops, and heads over to a reception desk saying, my name's Red, number 18. As Red goes to enter the ring, he says, I've seen my share of fights here, but I've hardly ever seen anybody blow through the prelims to get to Brock. Well, I guess that's the audience. Figures with the Peter City Gym's finest standing in the way. One of the trainers says, come on, punk, let's get this thing going. Red brings out Pikachu saying, okay, you're on. The Pikachu turns away angrily. Red says, oh great, it's hopeless. He's the only one at full health, but I couldn't train him. Oh, he was dirty because he was out training the Pikachu, or trying to get the Pikachu to settle down. Says, well, I don't have a choice. They're low on health, but I gotta fight with these two. The trainer says, that one don't look like much to me. Yes, does it got any health left, punk? The bell rings for the fight, and Red says, let's win with the first attack, Poliwhirl. Poliwhirl sends out a blast of water, which would be super effective, and then uses now Ice Beam, and freezes Graveler? Yeah, Graveler. Hey, did I miss the title? Oh, Chapter 5, Onyx is on. Yeah, that's my bad. I was just so into the manga. Red says, we can't afford to take even one hit or we're finished. Did he just kill that Graveler? That thing burst into pieces. That's kind of messed up. Red's matches continue. As the people say as he fights, that kid showed me something. Or is it Blue saying this? He's finishing every fight with his first attack. He's only got two of the things, but with the swift water Pokemon and the power fighting grass Pokemon, he's got great balance. Doesn't waste his attacks either. The punk's got strategy. And we see Bulbasaur battling a Sandshrew and then a Cubone. Oh, it's Brock saying this. As Red finishes the match, Brock says, now he finally gets to face Gym Leader Brock. Oh, no, I don't know who's saying that. But Brock is watching with his Graveler, Geodude, and Onix, saying, alas, an opponent worthy of me. It's so weird seeing a more hardcore Brock. You get then cut at the gym's back entrance, where Red is talking to his Pokemon through the Pokeballs, which is still a cool idea. Saying, oh, come on, Pikachu. Poliwhirl and Bulbasaur poop just this one time, please, okay? The Pikachu turns away. But Red ushers Pikachu into the ring saying, well, we're up. As Brock already has his Onix out, the bell rings, but Pikachu seems to refuse to fight. Brock was ready for it too, like, he then says, where's your famous first attack, boy? Guess I better go first then. Onix, rock throw. But Pikachu nimbly avoids all of the rocks. Well, except for one that bonks him in the head. The crowd says, oh no, the Pokemon took the full brunt of the attack. Looks like this is the end. But Pikachu just turns angry and then goes in, attacking Red. Oh, jeez. Much to Brock's surprise, Red is chased around the ring by Pikachu as the crowd laughs. Brock gets angry, saying, what a joke. So you were just winning with dumb luck before. My Onix's ultimate attack is to use its own body as a tornado. The speed of its revolution sets off unstoppable shockwaves. Yeah, I don't know what attack that is. As Red tries to defend against Pikachu's electric attacks, he notices Onix coming in, saying, it's a big one. Watch out, Pikachu. But Pikachu's back is turned. He's got AirPods in! As Brock uses the final strike, Skull Bash. But as Pikachu's about to be hit head on, Red drives in and manages to get Pikachu out of the way. Red looks at Pikachu and asks, you okay? Yeah, I'm glad. Look, you don't have to fight for me if you don't want to. I'm sorry I forced you into this. Pikachu remembers Red's words, saying, how about we just try to be friends? But Brock isn't about to step off, saying, phew. You won't miss this time. Onix, attack. The Pikachu readies itself, and sparks fly out of its cheeks and tail. He then shocks at Onix, with Brock going, what? And, oh geez, Onix literally falls to pieces, and Brock cries out, no! Which makes no real sense, but okay. Okay, Pikachu had to be at like some crazy high level to be able to do that to a rock Pokemon, and even then, that technically probably shouldn't have worked. The crowd goes, what's happening? Brock falls to his knees saying, it can't be. And Pikachu takes a bow. Red is shocked, going, whoa. And the referee holds up Red's hand as the victor. Later outside, Red looks at his badge saying, so Blue and I ended up being the only ones to win the Boulder badge. Thanks, Pikachu. I couldn't have done it without you. But Pikachu remains silent. Red says, meet Poliwhirl and Bulbasaur. They're good friends of mine. He'd love to have you join us if you want to. Shake on it. As Red holds out his hand, Pikachu goes for it, and with an evil grin, he shocks Red fully and starts chasing Red around as he says, what was that for? Just when I thought I was finally getting somewhere. Ornery Pikachus, always on the menu, but it looks like Red has a harder time of getting his Pikachu to chill out than Ash did. Oh, we then cut to an injured Misty, who her and her Staryu, or Starmie? Which is it? Staryu or Starmie? Staryu are facing off against a Gyarados. Misty then realizes something and says, it's the Hydro Pump, Staryu, get away. I should have just kept reading. And it shouldn't have that much effect on Staryu, but I mean, if it's powerful enough. Staryu takes the Hydro Pump head on. In Chapter 6, Gyarados splashes in. Staryu hits the ground, and Misty races over, calling out to it. Misty turns to the Gyarados, angrily saying, why you? Enter Red, who says, taking on a pretty big one, aren't you? Let me help. Misty says, stay back, you. This is dangerous. But Red races in, saying, I'll be fine. I'm not just any kid. He's back to his pompousness, saying, and by the way, the name's not you. Specifically, it's Red. Okay, go. Bulbasaur! And Bulbasaur enters the fray. Oh, I should probably bring up one of my favorite Pokemon. Yes, it's none other than Gyarados. Which, pretty base answer, but I'll be real. Sue me. Misty shocked, saying a Pokemon? You're a Pokemon trainer too? Gyarados lets out a Hydro Pump as Misty says, watch it. It's the Hydro Pump, but Bulbasaur takes it, because, hey, it's water. Plants love water. Misty shocked, saying, huh? Is that Pokemon smiling? And Red shrugs, saying, no water attack's gonna work on a grass Pokemon. Oh, now you care about type advantages. Red then says, now it's our turn. Bulbasaur, attack. And Bulbasaur sends out a seed that hits Gyarados, and it starts to cover Gyarados, binding it. Misty turns, questioning, Leech Seed? Red says, you got it. Misty turns to Staryu, saying, now's our chance, recover. And Staryu does just that. Misty pets Staryu, saying, okay, Staryu, your injuries are all healed. Red turns to her, saying, Hey, now that's a sweet trick. But Gyarados breaks free from the leech seed. Red says, should we start double dating? And Misty says we should. A team-up battle. And you don't get to see those actually in the story in the games for a while. Red calls out to Bulbasaur. Misty calls out to Staryu. Red calls out Vine Whip. Misty calls out Bubble Beam, and they manage to hit the Gyarados pretty hard. Red throws out a Pokeball saying, and last but not least, the Pokeball. And Gyarados is captured. Red says, got him, as Misty falls to her knees, saying, thanks a lot, Red says, one more time, the name's Red. Oh, the Gyarados is looking menacing from inside. Red says, I didn't expect to see a Pokemon that big and not here of all places. Was it wild or was it? Misty says Gyarados is a water Pokemon and is not supposed to live in habitats like this. Yeah, Gyarados is kinda a little far out of its usual place. I'm actually kind of surprised that Red managed to capture it, but then again, they did double team it. Red questions, I figured so. What's it doing here? Misty gets up and pats herself off, saying that Gyarados isn't wild, it's my Pokemon, which doesn't make sense how Red managed to capture an already owned Pokemon, but okay. Miss Red is shocked, saying, what? Misty explains, saying, I was raising it till last week when somebody stole it. When it came back, it wasn't the sweet Gyarados I knew anymore. Oh, man, this is Lake of Rage before Lake of Rage. She explains, I've been tracking it. Not hard to do since it's been destroying everything in its path. Anyway, thanks for the help. Everything's okay now. But Red says it is not. It's never okay when a Pokemon goes berserk. Those guys who stole Gyarados must be responsible for this. I'm gonna go kick their butts. As Misty says, where do you think you're going? Red says, where? He turns to Misty saying, those thieves you said they were, where'd you say they were? Misty says, listen. If I knew, don't you think I'd be there? And getting kind of the same kind of Ash and Misty vibe from before. Red ponders for a moment saying, hey, maybe the prof knows something. And then cut to the Pokemon Center where Ash and Misty are accessing the PC. Oak pops up on the screen saying, oh, Red, it's been a while. Red says, that's Professor Oak. He's the world's leading expert on Pokemon. Oak says, aw, shut. There are hundreds of varieties of Pokemon scattered all over the earth. Getting closer to completing your Pokedex, Red? Red shows off his Pokedex saying, as a matter of fact, I am. I even got some new data today. Take a look. And he brings up the Pokedex on Gyarados. Misty questions, a Pokedex? And Red says, oh, Gyarados. Oak explains, it's a high-tech encyclopedia. Ah, yes. Evolving from a magic carpet, hydro pump, but Red kinda dismisses Oak, saying, whenever I catch a Pokemon, its data automatically gets inputted. To input all the data on all the Pokemon, that's my goal in life. I have to fight wild Pokemon and tough trainers on the way, but I'll be a top Pokemon trainer myself one of these. But Misty notices that Oak is still going on, saying, thus, clearly, Red turns saying, oh, I almost forgot. Hey, Prof, I have a question. And Oak says, weren't you paying attention? One explanation later, Oak says, so the Pokemon refuses to listen to its trainer after just a few days. Sounds like the doings of Team Rocket. The two question, Team Rocket? Oak says, Team Rocket, a secret society that uses Pokemon for evil. Recently, they're rumored to be conducting lab experiments on Pokemon. Red says, using Pokemon? And Misty finishes, for lab experiments? Oak explains, distressing, I know, but there is something you can do to help. On Mount Moon, just to your east, there is reputed to be a moonstone. Red questions, what's that? Oak explains, a stone they say that is able to boost the power of Pokemon enormously. Well, specific Pokemon. It's likely that Team Rocket is after this stone. The two listen intently. Later, outside of the Pokemon Center, Red says, that does it. I can't wait to complete the Pokédex. First, I'm gonna find these Team Rocket guys and I'm gonna kick their... But Misty doesn't respond. Red turns saying, what? Misty says, I'm going with you. Red questions, huh? She explains, Mount Moon is on the way to my hometown. Oh, this is even near, and now I'm blanking on where Misty is from. That's great. That's just great. Cerulean City, there we go. Could you tell how many times I've played the games in the past? Oh, so many times. So many times. That's why I remember so much. If I go with you, I'm bound to run into a lot of trainers I know. I might be able to get more information on this Team Rocket. Red says, wait a minute, you don't think you can take on... Misty brings out all of her Pokeballs, all 6 of them. Great balls, too. He explains, I'm a water Pokemon trainer. The caves in the mountain are full of rock Pokemon. I think I can hold my own just fine. He holds out her hands and says, I forgot to introduce myself. My name's Misty. I'm from Cerulean City. Nice to meet you. Red is taken aback, but Misty grabs his hand and they race off, saying, okay then, we're off. Full speed ahead. We then cut to the caverns of Mount Moon, where the rocket grunts are outside. One is receiving a radio message saying, now entering the cave interior coordinate A5. Still no sign of the Moonstone. The grunt says, understood. Continue your search. And if any fool should dare to interfere, meet them with extreme force. Enter Misty and Red, with Misty saying right there, right over this hill is Mount Moon. In Chapter 7, Raging Ridon. But Misty shoves Red into the tall grass saying, whoa, somebody's there. We spot the rocket grunts right out of the cave. As Red says, wait a minute, that uniform. Misty questions, is that Team Rocket? Red says, I think so. Those jerks are everywhere. Right? Even more so in this series. Misty questions, so what now? Red explains, somewhere in there is a moonstone that can boost the Pokemon's power. Exactly what we need. You think I'm going to back down now? Quick, into the caves, he says as they, crawl through the tall grass past the grunts. As they enter deep in the caverns, Misty says it's awfully dark as a Zubat flies past her. Red says, just leave everything to me. Okay, Bright Eyes, I'm counting on you. And he brings out his Pikachu with Misty saying, is that a Pikachu? Red says, ain't Mickey Mouse. Oh God. Misty says, doesn't exactly look thrilled to be here. Red says, yeah, life's tough, little fella. The Pikachu's one talented little... And Pikachu lights the cavern up. Yeah, essentially using Flash. Misty says, oh, lights on. They make their way through the cave, and they gotta chat along the way. But Red bumps into something, saying, stupid rock, I oughta... You're gonna fight a rock? Misty says, Red, look up. As they look up, they spot none other than a Rhyhorn? Yeah, I was about to say Rhydon, but that's a Rhyhorn. Rocket Grunt says, well, if it isn't Tom Sawyer and little Becky in the cave. Oh, man, what's with all these references? Then again, the English anime did that too. As, I was about to say Ash, Red and Misty find themselves surrounded by Rocket Grunt. Oh, is this Koga? Yeah. Oh my God, it's Koga, yeah. I knew that some of the gym leaders were part of Team Rocket for some reason, which is actually kind of interesting. Red says, you're Team Rocket. Koga says, you know us, we're flattered. And who are you? Red says, let me answer you like this. Let's do it. And he sends out Pikachu saying, I challenge you. Koga says, Rhyhorn, Rock Blast. And Pikachu is bowled over as Red calls out to Pikachu. Pikachu is pretty much buried. But Pikachu suddenly bursts out of all the rubble. And then, what attack is that? It's like Pikachu magnetically brings up a lot of rocks and then fires them off at Rhyhorn and barbecues it. Red says, you may look cute, Pikachu, but ooh, you sure are ornery. See, thank you. Koga says, it takes me back to when I was a boy. Oh, pulls out a syringe saying, let me give you a little taste of reality. And much to the shock of Red and Misty, Koga injects his Rhyhorn, saying crush them. Oh, forced evolution. And Rhyhorn evolves into Rhydon. Red says, he turned Rhyhorn into Rhydon. And Misty realizes saying, are you responsible for what happened to my Gyarados? Koga says, how should we know? You think we remember every little Pokemon we experiment on? No, that's Team Rocket. Misty gets mad saying, you rotten Staryu, attack! And Staryu sends out a Hydro Pump. Misty says, it's working, we got him. But Koga says, dear me, do you think so? Rhydon's horn starts to spin, much to the shock of Misty and Red. As Koga says, horn drill. And this causes the water being fired at Rhydon to start whirling around and just, be redirected back to Red and Misty, as well as Staryu, who all get swept away. Ooh. Misty hits the cave wall hard and falls to the floor unconscious. Red calls out to Misty and then says they'll pay for this. Koga says, perhaps in some other lifetime. Ash says, oh yeah? Pikachu, attack. Pikachu races in, only to find itself about to be stepped on by Rhydon. Oh, and it is stepped on. Jeez. Koga says it's over. Rhydon attack. And Rhydon uses his horn to fling rocks at Red. Red says, I guess nobody wins every fight, but I'm not gonna lose to jerks like you. He calls out Pikachu now, and Pikachu surges out electricity under Rhydon's foot, managing to break free from underneath. This thing is tough. Pikachu goes racing around the cave as Koga says, where are you flying, Pikachu? Out of control, perhaps? But Pikachu, he uses his tail to affect one of the rocks above Koga, much to Koga's shock, as he starts to bring down several rocks on top of the rocket grunts as they manage to dodge out of the way, sealing off the entrance to where, blocking them off from Red and Misty, essentially. The grunts look at the immovable boulder, and Koga takes off his hat saying, gone, they're gone. Misty awakens saying, oh, where am I? What the? I'm covered in dirt. As Red has hauled Misty out of the cave while Poliwhirl hauls out Staryu. And Misty says, yeah, you got me all dirty as she decks Red in the face. Okay, this is a change. Because in the original, she says, who do you think you're groping? Which kind of comes out of nowhere because it's just like, wait, what? Like, wait, what? Honestly, it actually kind of makes more sense to her to be mad about being dirty. As they make their way out, Red says, you should have seen me in there. I nailed Rhydon with Pikachu in one shot, and then Missy says, sure, whatever. But we didn't get the Moonstone, and Red says, hey, if you'd let me finish my story. And he brings out the Moonstone, saying the cave collapsed, and there it was. Now let's use it. As they race off, Missy says, you did it. We then cut to Cerulean City, the city of water. Oh, I wouldn't really call it that, but more like Venice. Red says, this is a joke, right? I mean, this place, there's no way this is your house. Missy says, afraid so. In Chapter 8, Suddenly Starmie. A horde of maids come out saying, welcome home, Lady Misty. Your ladyship, it is dirty. Misty says, I'd like you to meet somebody. The name's Red. Red says, yo, like a man. Oh God. Okay, Red's clothes are hung out to dry. His Pokemon are healed. He's now in a bathrobe, and a whole elaborate table setup is now there. Jeez, man. I figured the sisters came from money, but dang, coming from bank. Red says, wow, I could get used to this. And Misty comes out in this very elaborate dress, like, geez, saying, sorry to keep you waiting. Red says, whoa, you didn't tell me this was a costume party. Well, Misty says, oh, shut up. Look, Misty, you don't dress up like that just for shits and giggles. But she says, just eat your dinner. And I guess Red is explaining things to Misty's siblings? I don't even know who the rest of these people are. Red says, and then Misty got knocked out, so it was me against all of Team Rocket. Of course, it only took me a few minutes to mop them up. Misty says, hey, Red, there's something I gotta talk to you about. Red says, what is it, Misty? Can't stand listening to how I saved the day while you were snoozing? Misty says, shut up. Listen, our Pokemon will be fully healed soon. When they are, I think we need to put them on a serious training regimen. Red questions training. Misty says, yep, those dopes we fought at Mount Moon can't be the best Team Rocket's got. We're going to have more opponents to face. Better ones, stronger ones. Red says, chill out. Misty questions, what? Oh God. Here comes the same cocky attitude from Red as we would sometimes get from Ash. Red says, goons like that might scare you, but I know how to handle them. Misty says, you want to get your stupid self hurt? Red says, you wouldn't say that if you hadn't slept through my performance. Misty says, you idiot. Gets up and storms off. Red says, sheesh, you don't have to take it personally. In his bedroom, Red says, did I say something wrong? Nah. Anyways, who's got time for training? There's a whole mansion full of cute maids for me to ask out. Jesus. And Red, you slipped from being a very nice kid to being a pompous ass on a dime. I guess Ash wasn't the only one suffering from that. Suddenly the lights go off and Red's bed is turned up. He says, hey, what's this with this wind? Somebody help me. Bulbasaur gets out of his Pokeball and manages to catch Red with a Vine Whip. As they try to withstand the turbulent winds, there's a figure in the darkness who moves out of the window. Red then turns on the light saying, it's over? Wait, what's this? A scale? A Gyarados scale. Later, in the morning, at breakfast, Red's eating his food and says, is somebody after me? One of the maids say, Mr. Red, please excuse us, but Red turns up saying, oh, I get it. You want to see me in action? The maid say, oh, yes, sir. Red says smugly, well, if you insist, I can give you a little sample that this very day. The maid say, oh, but how? Red says, Cerulean City must have a gym leader, right? Just for you, I'm going to challenge him and kick his butt. Oh, man. Red, buddy. Oh, boy. The maids start laughing amongst themselves. And Red says, what are you laughing about? You don't think I can? The maid say, no, sir, it's just that. Enter Misty, who says, so you want to fight the Cerulean City gym leader, do you? Come with me. I'll take you there myself. As they make their way through the streets, Red questions, hey, wait up. How far is this gym? Hey, Missy says it's at the edge of the city. Red looks around at the forest there now and saying, not very convenient. But they make their way to the gym. Which is weird because in the game it's in the heart of the city, but they arrive at the Cerulean City gym. As Missy says, voila. She opens the door and says, please, after you, giggling to herself, which Red kind of questions, but he goes on in. He says, don't tell me the idiot isn't here. You checked all the rooms. Where is this moron gym leader anyway? Missy says the moron is right here, which I wouldn't really put it like that, but okay, Misty. Red's dumbfounded and says, okay, yeah, I get it. Funny. Now, where is he really? But Red narrowly avoids being hit with a hydro pump, saying, what the? As Misty's standing next to her Starmie, she starts to move in on Red. As Red says, now hold on a second, but Misty then commands Starmie to attack. With kind of looks like Surf. As Red runs from the torrent of water, Misty coldly says, not in a fighting mood? What if I told you the one who attacked you last night was me? Red says, no way. But as he's hit by another torrent of water, Misty says, well, if you say so. Red gets angry, saying, you'll regret that, and brings out Bulbasaur. Commands Bulbasaur to use Vine Whip, but Starmie manages to deflect it. As Misty says, a Vine Whip? You gotta be kidding. And commands Starmie to use Bubble Beam, which manages to knock both Red and Bulbasaur off at his feet. Red says, what's gotten into you anyway? Misty's silent for a moment, and then says, I thought you knew how I felt about us as a team. Hey, as a team? All been together for like a day. He says, I just knocked you down, but Starmie wasn't enough at Mount Moon. Well, you were using Star U. Don't you have a Starmie and a Star U? Or did your Star U evolve? With tears in her eyes, Missy says, don't you get it? You have to get real or they'll flatten us. We have to be at our best and we have to work together. Red thinks for a moment and says, she did all this just to prove. Red gets up saying, you're right. I don't have time to impress girls. He holds out his hand saying, you don't have time for tears. Misty smiles as Red says, let's go train. Cut to a few days later. Misty and Red shake hands and you really see the size difference between the two of them. As Red heads off, Misty's maids ask, are you certain it's wise to let him go? Misty says, yep. We've learned each other's skills in attack. Now it's time to hone those skills on our own. But I do look forward to meeting him again. And Red turns back, waving, saying, see you, Misty. You know, we talked about this whole team thing, but he just kind of ventures off. Though he does have the gym badge, we then cut to not far from Cerulean City, where we see Bill in his office, saying, dang it, the thing's gone kablooey again. He enters his machine saying, this here Pokemon transporter don't run no better than a Metapod and molasses. Fixing it just so it's just one big old pain in the... But his shirt gets caught on the latch to the door and shuts it behind him. Bill turns saying, double dang, oh double dang. And the auto timer activates and the transfer machine starts to activate on both Bill and Eradicate in the other side. Jeez, he's got a lot of Pokeballs. Cut to Route 24-24. As Red's dropping Pokeballs saying, got so many Pokeballs I can't carry them all. In Chapter 9, but Pharaoh itself. Oh, Red caught a Bellsprout. As he thinks back, saying, but I worked so hard to catch them all, I can't just leave them behind because they're so heavy. Then sees a Rattata with a interesting hairdo pulling a log with some string. As Red says, that's a Rattata, I think. But something's not right about it. There's got to be a new kind of Pokemon, all right? But then the Rattata says, ooh-wee, who'd have thunk it'd be so hard just to light a fire? Red is taken aback as the Rattata says, heck, if I was human, I'd have picked this old stick up just like it was a stick. Red freaks out saying, a Pokemon that talks? As he, retreats backwards. He's just thinking if he encountered the Meowth. The Rattata Well, Bill says, hot dang, a human being. I was starting to think nobody'd ever come moseying out here. Red says, Bill then says, but praise be. Come on, young fella, lend me a hand. Red's like, Bill says, what is it, boy? Something scare you? Yeah, what do you think? Bill says, well, I may look like just a mutated rat-a-tat, but I'll have you know I'm a Pokemon expert. Name's Bill, and this here sea caught it. And then he's just picked up by a rogue Pharaoh. Bill calls out, help! Well, don't just stand there, boy, help! And Red thinks, help? And all of his Pokemon nod. And Red says, right. And they all race off saying, hey, wait up! First we gotta stop the Pharaoh. Bulbasaur, Razor Leaf. But the Pharaoh manages to just dodge out of the way. With Bill saying, what kind of lame attack is that? Now listen, boy. If you want to stop a flying Pokemon, first thing you gotta do is paralyze his wings. What do you think some grass Pokemon's gonna do for you? And Bulbasaur gets mad. You got two you can use them. As he points to Poliwhirl and Pikachu. Red says, if it'll shut you up, Poliwhirl, Ice Beam, Pikachu, Thunder Wave. And the two Pokemon do just that, which all manages to hit Bill. Nice. Red says, oops. Bill calls out, what are you shooting me for? You aiming to fry me? Red gets mad as Bill says, don't even try while the dang thing's flying. Just wait till it stops. Red says, you think I can keep up with? And he says, wait. Oh, as he sees thunderclouds in the sky. He calls out for Pikachu, who goes rocketing into the sky above the Pharaoh, touching the clouds. As Bill says, what? Red says, if you miss from below, try from above. Bill freaks out saying, you do want to fry me. And manages to hit. Pikachu manages to electrocute the Pharaoh that drops Bill. Red goes racing saying, gotcha. But Bill hits the ground. Oh no, it's the Pharaoh that hits the ground, but hard. Red looks on to the Pharaoh saying, so, not a lot of fight in you now, eh? But the Pharaoh then gets up and spreads its wings as Red backs up. Meanwhile, Bill has managed to land on a cave up on a nearby little mountain top. He then looks down and spots the Pharaoh menacing Red and his team. Bill says, I know that stance. And he calls out, hey boy, better watch out for the drill peck. Red says, huh? As Pharaoh uses drill peck and goes rocketing in on Red. Red readies itself. Oh, geez. As it manages to pierce through Poliwhirl. Bill freaks out, but Poliwhirl then disappears and Pharaoh's beak is frozen. And then the rest of it's frozen. Red says, phew. And Bill calls out, don't tell me you planned that. Red says, it helped to know what attack was coming next. Thanks. Bill says, anytime, boy, anytime. We then cut to the sea cottage where Red activates the machine. And Bill is back to his usual self. Bill says, hot diggity dog. No chance I could have got back to normal by myself. Much obliged, boy. Red then looks at the machine saying, what is this thing? Bill says, a Pokemon transporter. This here contraption will transport Pokemon or whatever you want, anywhere you want it. Red says, that is so cool. Bill ponders for a second saying, still got a few bugs to work out though. Like if you got a rat-a-tat in one cylinder and it stops working on you and you fall into the other cylinder and Red just listens. But Bill says, well, you get the pitch. Like I said, the name's Bill. And Red says, I'm Red. I'm on a mission to become the greatest Pokemon trainer who ever lived. Bill gets excited saying, a boy with a mission. That's what I like to see. Tell you what, boy, I'm gonna help you. And I ain't a Pokemon expert for nothing, you know. We gotta lighten your load. I'll take these, as he takes one of the Pokeballs off of Red's belt, saying, now, with my transporter, I can shoot these to you instantly wherever you happen to, huh? And then he notices the Pharaoh in the Pokeball and freaks out. Cut to Red, taking off. Treasure saying, what a day. You're happy to be out of your Pokeballs, as he calls out to Ash, Poliwhirl, and Bulbasaur, saying, whoa, look at that. Check out that humongous swimming pool over there. That's the sea, man. Oh, he says, hey, kidding, guys. That there is what we call the ocean. Then spots the SSN saying, hey, what a cool looking ship. Let's check it out. In Chapter 10, Danger. Hi, Voltorb. Oh my god, you guys are too much. Danger, danger. Hi, Voltorb. When we touch, ding, ding. when we kids. Ash comes upon the SSN saying, man, it's huge. I'm sunk if anybody sees me, but wait, why are you sneaking on? Oh, this little troublemaker. He manages to sneak under a sailor carrying a heavy crate. He laughs to himself on the boat saying, I can't believe I'm getting away with this. I wonder how far I can go. He hears a crate rustling and said, did I just hear something? I must be getting jumpy. As he doesn't notice the crate rustling anymore, he makes his way through saying, I could use a map, right? Thing is a maze. But then he noticed something in one of the cabins. He goes, what was that? And he peeks in. What is that? He freaks out, yelling from the figure inside, alerting the sailors who spot him, saying, a stowaway, get him! And they toss him out, saying, and stay out. Red says, didn't have to get so rough. I mean, yeah, you stowed away. He says, wait a sec. That thing, it had to be a Pokemon. But what's it doing on a ship? Riding it. Dude, it's none of your business. But a figure appears behind him saying, young man, yeah, it's the dude who gives you the ticket, right? The old man says, those fears you're wearing, might those by any chance Pokeballs? Red says, yeah, who are? The man says, good for you, my boy. So young, but already a Pokemon trainer. Red questions, is that so amazing? The man says, and humble besides. I can see you're not just any lad. Now let's have a look at what's in those Pokeballs, eh? Dude, that's, I think he needs to be on a watch list. Red says, but they're, the man says, show me. Red says, cut it out. Bulbasaur, Poliwhirl, and Pikachu are brought out as the man says, remarkable, simply remarkable. You're in. You, my lad, are now an honorary member of the Pokemon Fan Club. Red questions, Pokemon Fan Club? We then cut to Vermilion City, where the man leads him to the Pokemon Fan Club. Red, you really shouldn't be going with this guy. Saying, don't be shy, son. He enters in as he says, you there, my girl. You take this to the post office. Red sees a Pokemon stamp, and hears the conversation amongst the people saying, I swear there's nothing more older and stubborn than a Caterpie. Well, at least they don't have hairballs like my Rattata. Hee. The man says, lad, you'll never find a more devoted gaggle of Pokemon lovers than in this room. Red says, yeah. He then shows off a paper saying, take a look. This newsletter says it all. He reads the newsletters where it reads, that's the last bath I'll take with my tentacle. Should he be reading that? Red questions a bath with a. The man says, everyone, please, may I have your attention? Allow me to introduce our newest member, my friend Red. Red says, whoa, wait, but suddenly his Pokemon are being petted as the people say, golly, these Pokemon are certainly used to people, aren't they? Aren't they cute? And even Pikachu's being well behaved. A woman petting the Poliwhirl says, how long have you had this Poliwhirl? Red says, since I was a kid, and Poliwhirl was just a Poliwag. The woman says, goodness, they're well behaved, aren't they? Red says, well, we've been traveling together for a long time, and they've bailed me out of plenty of battles. Oh, a hush falls over the crowd as the man says, you make your Pokemon do battle? Red questions, what else would I do with them? The chairman says, what kind of Pokemon lover would we be if we made them fight? Red says, they have to fight to evolve. The chairman says, ours just stay little and cute forever. Suddenly a man bursts in saying, help, someone stole my executor. People gasp. And the chairman says, not again. Red questions, what's wrong? The woman he asks says, the director's Abra was stolen last month. The people tell Red, it's happening to all of us. That's a lot. Red says, that's a lot of Pokemon. The director says, and there's nothing we can, and he starts crying over his Abra. Red says, a Pokénapper, eh? He slams his hand on the table saying, tell me everything you know about this case. He sits down with the people. As Red says, okay, so the adoptions happened around the same time every month. Person says, yes. Red thinks to himself saying, but it'd be too hard for anybody but the owners to get their Pokemon into their Pokeballs, meaning that the thieves would have to be able to transport full-size Pokemon somehow. But what could be big enough to, and he looks out the window, it's like spotting the SSN saying, oh, you know where that ship is headed? A man says, I heard that Lieutenant Surge, the Vermilion City gym leader, uses it to transport supplies to Cinnabar Island. Red says, a ship full of supplies for a gym leader. Could those supplies be? And then he thinks, bingo. Okay then. Thinking back to what he saw in the ship, he goes for the door saying, Time for me to take a cruise. The director says, stop. He walks over to Red saying, if you must go, I have one request. Red says, it better be important. And he says, will you leave Pikachu behind for me to cuddle? And Red does just that as he races off with just Bulbasaur and Poliwhirl. Then cut to the waterfront where Red says, okay, this time we go in from the back. He heads into the water with Bulbasaur and Poliwhirl. He uses Bulbasaur's Vine Whip to get on the ship, saying, thanks, Bulbasaur. Wait for me, okay? So you're down yet another Pokemon, jeez. He enters into a room saying, this is the room where I saw that. There's nothing here. Don't tell me I just imagined it. And then spots something saying, hey, a Pokeball. He goes to reach for it, but oh god, it's none other than a Voltorb who goes and shocks Red and reels back. Red saying, what is that? Stop it! Poliwhirl, attack! And he attacks the Voltorb, sending it flying. Red questions, man, what kind of Pokemon was that? How are you doing, Poliwhirl? Oh, and Poliwhirl just falls over right then and there. Red goes over asking, Poliwhirl, what's wrong? As none other than Lieutenant Surge comes from behind saying, I say it's in shock. Red turns, going, huh? Lieutenant Surge says, water conducts electricity well. I'm famous for running a tight ship here. We deal with trespassers very harshly. As Red then finds himself surrounded by Voltorbs, Electros, and Magnemites and Magnetons. As Lieutenant Surge and his men surround Red, as Poliwhirl is taken out, Lieutenant Surge says, not your usual child's play, is it, boy? Now tell me, what are you doing on my ship? In Chapter 11, Buzz Off, Electabuzz. Red says, someone is stealing Pokemon from town. I'm going to catch the thieves. Lieutenant Surge and his men laugh as he says, you think we're the bad guys? Did you hear that, boys? We're freeing those poor, pampered, coddled, under-evolved, over-domesticated Pokemon. Okay, so this is a harder edge, Lieutenant Surge. And if we make a little profit on the side, that just helps us do our good work, doesn't it? Red says, so it is you. Lieutenant Surge says, get as mad as you want, son. But do you really think you can handle us for just one Pokemon? Red looks over at his barely conscious Poliwhirl. Lieutenant Surge then turns to his Electabuzz saying, I thought so, let's finish this. This is a mean one. Can't even get it into a Pokeball. But it makes a perfect guard dog. Oh, it was Electabuzz he saw before. He unchains his Electabuzz saying, Electabuzz, attack! And Electabuzz goes in with electrified fish trying to strike at Red. Red manages to dodge out of the way with his Poliwhirl as Electabuzz shatters the floor underneath. Red looks at what he could have been, broken, as Surge says, that's just a taste of the Thunder Punch. Red thinks, what am I going to do now? As he readies himself, Surge says, this time he won't miss. But Surge doesn't notice the puddle leading from where Electabuzz is standing to Poliwhirl. Surge calls, Electabuzz attacks. Electabuzz readies himself, while Red says, Poliwhirl now! As Poliwhirl taps the ground and freezes both Lieutenant Surge and Electabuzz's feet. Surge looks down saying, ice? Red says, gotcha. And throws down a Pokeball that causes a smoke screen. As Surge says, hey. Red is then gone as Surge says, he got away. Little brat thinks he can outsmart me. Red is hiding around the corner saying, oh, that was way too close. He checks on Poliwhirl saying, great work, Poliwhirl, just like when we were little. And we're always escaping from bullies. Red then peeks around the corner saying, hate to do it, but we gotta bail for now. He then spots a Magnemite floating around the corner and another one. He thinks to himself, they're all over the place and probably looking for me. He crawls low with Poliwhirl thinking, while they go that way, He climbs up the stairs saying, something tells me this isn't exactly the way to the exit. This better not be a trap, as he doesn't notice that Lieutenant Surge is watching him on a monitor, laughing. As Red is walking through the ship with Poliwhirl on his back, he doesn't notice the Magneton coming up behind him. It lets out a high-pitched shriek, and Red flings Poliwhirl, I guess by accident, I can't really tell. Red chases after him saying, no, Poliwhirl, only for it to be caught by Lieutenant Surge, who says, well. Red says, Lieutenant Surge. Surge holds Poliwhirl over the side, and Red tries to reach saying stop, but he's caught by the Magnemites who use a kind of barrier, shield thingy. Red says, what the? Oh, the electromagnetic barrier, right, from this gym. Surge says, an electric barrier stronger than steel. You can't get through. Say goodbye. And he tosses Poliwhirl into the water. Red calls out for Poliwhirl as he's held aloft by the barrier. Electabuzz charges up as Surge says, "We'll show you what happens to little boys who go where they shouldn't." Oh, jeez. The Surge says, "Electabuzz, Thunderbolt." And he shocks Red unconscious. The Magnemites then use their barrier. The Magnetons use their barrier to shepherd Red over to the water. As Surge says, "That should be enough." The Pokemon drop their barrier and drop Red into the water as Surge says, "Bon voyage." As Red is submerged, he thinks, "I remember this happened once before. A long time ago, Poliwag was there but couldn't help me. But then Poliwag evolved to save me. And, just like before, Poliwhirl is reaching for Red now." Surge says, "Well, that takes care of that." Only for Poliwrath to burst out of the water with Red in hand. He gets on the boat and sets Red down. Surge calls out, "Electabuzz, attack." Oh, but Poliwrath manages to deflect it. Surge says, I think I left the bathtub running," and runs off as Poliwrath grapples with Electabuzz. But Poliwrath's superior strength allows it to take Electabuzz and toss it at Surge. As Surge says, "No, not the seismic toss," which knocks both him and Electabuzz into the water. And then we cut to later, where we see the police arresting Surge and his men. Well, Surge's men, saying, "Move them out, boys." Red thinks to himself, they didn't find Lieutenant Surge, but they found and rescued all the kidnapped Pokemon. Now my only problem is, the director runs up saying, my boy." Red says, "Oh, Mr. Director." The director says, "I heard all about it. Congratulations, my boy, and thank you." Red says, "Yeah, but..." The director then looks over saying, "What's this? Your Poliwhirl. Did it evolve into this Poliwrath?" Red says, "Yeah, but it's still cute, isn't it?" As Poliwrath flexes, the director says, "Little Poliwhirl. But where's my little Abra? Tell me the truth." Red says, Where Well, you see," and we see one of my other favorite Pokemon, Alakazam. As Red says, "Your little Abra evolved into a great big Alakazam." The director freaks out, saying, "No, no, no." And he passes out as the people run over saying, "Mr. Director," as Red just kinda doesn't really know what to do. Then we cut to something completely different. As an announcer says, "Attention all Pokemon trainers, take your position. Our thanks to the Miracle Cycle for sponsoring this race, and to all of you for taking part. A mere 10 kilometers on level well-marked roads, nothing to it. An easy race course. Of course, on the way. Well, giggle. But we shouldn't give away everything, should we? Everyone on their bike. Then, get ready, get set," as we see Red amongst several people on bikes at the starting line. "Go!" In Chapter 12, Wake Up Your Snorlax. As Red pushes past the crowd, he says, I really want that first prize. I even paid a 30 smacker entry fee to get into this race. I can't get up any speed. What's with this stupid bike?" As he falls behind the pack, Red says maybe borrowing a bike from that Pokemon fan club wasn't such a good idea. "Oh geez, look how far behind I am. Maybe I should just drop out now." But then he notices several people crowded. He says, "Why are they all bunched up here? It's just a river. Why are you crossing one at a time?" Another cyclist says, "Take a look." And Red looks into the water saying, Tentacruel. "No way, this isn't fair." Someone says, "Sure it is. Have you ever raced in a tri-Pokemon before? This isn't just a race, it's a Pokemon obstacle course." And as he gets on his Slowpoke, he says, "And for obstacles like this, you're allowed to use your own Pokemon. See ya." Red says, "All right, I can win with this. For starters." He goes down to the water and brings out Poliwrath, saying, "Ice Beam Bridge." And Poliwrath does just that, with the people going, "Whoa." Red says, "Give me 5, Poliwrath." And Poliwrath does just that. And as Red makes his way, he says, "We've gained a lot of ground. We can keep going like this." He then notices someone turning off, saying, "Hey, where does that guy think he's going?" "Oh well, that's his problem. I'm on an obstacle course too. I'm one obstacle closer to." But then he notices something saying, "Forest. A thick one too. No way I can ride through that. No wonder everybody else is going around it. Guess I'll have to do the same." But then he notices a young bug catcher boy saying, "Hey, you're going through there?" The kid says, "I know a shortcut." Red says, "Yes." Another chance to move up. The boy says, "Don't try it. This forest is infested with bug Pokemon. It'll be a long cut for you." As he's putting on bug spray. Oh, and there's another one of my favorite Pokemon, Scyther. Bada boing. As the boy answers with his cipher, he says, if you don't have bug spray, you better stay out. See ya. Red says, who's afraid of some bugs? Let's go. As he has Pikachu on his back, zapping a Venonat, a Venomoth, and a Butterfree. As he says, I got an electric Pokemon that'll fry them all. He then says, oh yeah, hey Bulbasaur, open a path with your Razor Leaf. And Bulbasaur does just that, cutting down several trees, saying, the race is ours. Oh, only for something to land in front of Red. And as he looks down, he spots a Beedrill's hive on Bulbasaur's head, and that means only for some Beedrill to move in on Red and his team as he's stung to high heavens along with his Pokemon. He says, every shortcut has a big price, but look where we are, as he's far ahead of the pack. He says to his Pokemon, last leg guys, let's roll. You've been great, but from here on, this is my race. I'm gonna win this myself. The announcer calls out, and they're approaching the finish line. Belling for the lead are Swimmer, a bug catcher, they don't even have names, while a surprising third is this youngster. Which of them will be the winner? Who will be the one to take home all these Pokemon items and the 10,000 in prize money? Dang, that's nice. I think that mostly translates to $100, but that's not bad. You then enter into Route 12 Fishing Pier, where the Swimmer and bug catcher are cut off. As Red says, what the heck is that? He nears them saying, what's going on? The Swimmer says, looks like we're tied for nothing. Bugcatcher says, we'll never get past this. Red looks up saying, weird, how'd a boulder get out here? He then notices, it's a Snorlax. Swimmer says, they can sleep forever. Nothing wakes them up. Red says, then we'll just have to capture it. He says, Poliwrath, I choose you. And Poliwrath goes in for a tackle and bounces right off. Much to Red's shock, sends in Poliwrath again, but he bounces right off. The Bugcatcher says, don't you think we didn't try already? The Swimmer says, no matter what we do, the Snorlax sleeps right through it. Red pulls out his Pokédex. As the Swimmer says, only one thing will wake up Snorlax, food. Red says, oh ho ho, so that's how it is. Food. Well, here goes nothing. Hey, Snorlax, how about a snack? Oh, and he brandishes Bulbasaur with the honey on him. Bulbasaur looks back in a panic as Red says, it's okay, Bulbasaur, I promise. Snorlax gets up as Red says, come on, can't you smell it? It's Beedrill honey. And Snorlax gets right on up. And we then cut to later as the announcer says, I can see the leaders approaching. Can't make them out yet. There they are. Let's hear some cheers for our next Huh? That's not a bike. As we see Red racing down being chased by the Snorlax as the announcer says, what is that thing? And the winner is And Snorlax dive bombs at the finish line. Red says, I can't believe it. The 10,000 in prize money. And it took every cent to fill up this stupid Snorlax as we see Snorlax down in a whole bunch of grub. So Red caught the Snorlax, right? Yeah, he does. Alright, it's chapter 13, Psy for Psyduck. As we cut to up north in Lavender Town, and we are just racing through areas. Red and his Pokemon are racing through the water. Well, racing through the rain saying, we gotta find a place to get out of this rain. Red calls out to one of the townspeople saying, excuse me, but they ignore him. Red says, let's try that again. Excuse me, and another person ignores him. Says, geez, is this Lavender Town or Leave 'em there town? A man comes up from behind saying, not very trusting people, are they? Which freaks out Red as he sees an old man come up. Red thinks, how did he sneak up on me like that? Red then asks, mind if I ask what you're doing? The man says, just paying my respect. He lived to a ripe old age, my beloved Pokemon, but his time came at last. Red does the same and pays his respects as the old man says, thank you. You also found a Pokemon? Come. Have something warm to drink at my house. During the days where you could just go to an old man's house and not worry about, well, a lot of things. The home of Mr. Fuji. Okay, it was Mr. Fuji. He's pouring some tea while Red dries himself. As Fuji says, for many years this town was said to be a gathering place for the souls of Pokemon. To honor the souls and give them a place of rest, the townspeople erected a great Pokemon tower. Red says, you mean that building is a Pokemon cemetery? Fuji says, indeed, as they look out at the tower. Red says, but if that's the cemetery, why didn't you build a memorial there? Fuji says, because no one dares venture near the tower. Whenever we risk it, they appear. Red questions they. Fuji says the ghost. Red says ghost. He then laughs and says ghost. He says Pokemon ghosts. He and his Pokemon laugh. Fuji says, you saw the fear in the town's people's eyes for yourself. They've become so terrified of the ghost that they have forgotten how to trust one another. They won't even make eye contact with strangers. You may choose to believe it or not. He then pulls out a picture of his Doduo. As Red says, is that your Doduo? Fuji says it was. If only I could let my Pokemon rest in a proper place instead of a weed-grown alley. Red looks at the picture saying, you must have cared a lot for your Doduo. Oh, and he then sees Blue in the picture. And Fuji says, he calls out Blue's name. Fuji says, you know that lad? Red says, I'm on a quest to fill this Pokedex with information on every Pokemon there is. And my rival on that quest is Blue. Fuji says, he passed through town just before I lost my Doduo. Red says, where is he now? Fuji says, just like you. When I told him about the ghost, he laughed it off. We ran off to the tower to show up our foolishness. That was 2 weeks ago. God. He hasn't come back. Fuji then says, but then, in recent times, no one who enters the tower ever comes out again. Red is then walking through the rain saying, so Blue is missing. The guy's personality could use some improvement, but as a Pokemon trainer, he's the real thing. He doesn't go down easy. So what could put him out of action for 2 weeks? Could it possibly be? Could that tower really be haunted by ghosts? And just like Blue, Red goes racing towards the tower saying, well, I'm not running away from a challenge that he took on. I'll find out the truth behind those ghosts. He then enters into the tower, creeping past the graves. Something plops down behind him, and as he shrieks, he says, phooey, just water dripping. Gotta get a grip. Man, this place doesn't look so huge from the outside. Where's the other? Hey, what's with this fog? Uh-oh. And suddenly, an ethereal image of a Psyduck appears. Red goes, huh? Is that a Pokemon? He looks around, saying, more of them, seeing a Slowpoke, a Lickitung, a Tangela. Oh God. Psyduck lunges at him and turns into a skeleton, freaking out Red. Red backs up, saying, a ghost. He cries out, Bulbasaur, Razor Leaf now. And the leaf gets stuck in the Psyduck's head, and the Psyduck just walks around. The usual headache. Red says, nothing. You gotta stop these things, Bulbasaur. Sleep powder. But the sleep powder doesn't have any effect, as Red thinks they should do it. Then calls out, no, it didn't even slow him down. They're ghosts. Nothing has any effect. What am I gonna do? And as the Psyduck lunges at Red again, Bulbasaur uses Vine Whip to tie up the Psyduck. Red says, it's falling apart. Psyduck melts in Bulbasaur's grasp and hits the floor. Red says, it's just an empty shell. But what was making it move? Red then notices he's surrounded by more and more ghost Pokemon, thinking, who's controlling these things? He says, trying to mystify me, well. The ghosts, not appreciating the joke, jump at Red, and he says, Bulbasaur, run for it, and they dash off. But then he notices, huh? They're not following us. Wait a second. None of them are leaving the fog. That must mean this purple haze is what's controlling those zombies. Alright, now that I know that, suddenly a flame appears right in front of Red. He jumps back, saying, ow, fire. Could it be? He then sees Blue in the fog. Red calls out to him, Blue, you're okay. Never thought I'd be glad to say that. But suddenly more fire surrounds Red as he says, what's the idea, you? But Red notices there's a weird look in Blue's eyes as he's flanked by his Charmeleon. He says, Blue, what happened to you? And next is chapter 14, that awful Arbok. Red says, Blue, talk to me, buddy. His eyes. He's being controlled by this fog too. Blue orders Charmeleon to attack and breathe fire, and Red runs. Charmeleon then goes racing in, but is parried as Bulbasaur catches Charmeleon's tail. Red says, we can't fight each other. We gotta figure out who's behind all this. There's only one Pokemon I know who can take over bodies like this. One gas Pokemon with psychic abilities, Ghastly, and Ghastly takes shape above Blue. As Red says, that's who we gotta take down. Bulbasaur, attack Ghastly, but as Bulbasaur tries to use Razor Leaf, nothing affects it. Red calls out, oh no, Ghastly's made of gas, the Razor Leafs go right through. Oh great, Charmeleon's Fire Spin as Blue commands Charmeleon. Bulbasaur does something, and a weird wind blows through the air, blowing away Ghastly, causing Blue and Charmeleon to slump to the floor. Oh, Bulbasaur is absorbing the gas? Red says, way to go, Bulbasaur, keep it up till you hear a Ghastly blorp. Ew. You thought that plant on its back can only spew things out? You ain't seed nothing yet. And as Bulbasaur absorbs all of Ghastly's gas, he then fires it out into the horizon through the wall. And as Red looks out, he calls out, "Yo, Blue, snap out of it." Blue stirs and gets up, saying, "Oh, it's just you." Red says, "Back to your old obnoxious self, I see." Blue dusts himself off, saying, "That's right. You have my gratitude for today, of course. Now that that's over with." Red says, "Blue, we gotta get out of this tower. Something's really wrong here." "Hey, that's not the exit. I said we gotta get out." But Blue continues on, saying, "I'll show that buffoon." Red questions, "Buffoon?" Blue says, "Thinks he can cast a spell on me, does he?" As Red follows behind, he says, "Hey, wait up." Blue, going up the stairs, says, "I didn't ask you to tag along." Red says, "I take back the old obnoxious self line. You're worse. I just finished fighting a whole horde of zombies to save your stupid hide, and now..." Blue says, "Yes, and I express my gratitude." Red says, "Sheesh, how tall is this tower anyway?" He then looks down at his feet, seeing that he stepped in something, saying, What's this stuff?" It then splashes up at him, but before it can make contact, Blue and his Charmeleon grab him to get him out of the way, but Red's shoulder starts to burn. Blue says, "That's a poison Pokemon's venom. Pay attention or you'll end up as yogurt." Ew. Suddenly, laughter is heard on the floor that they're on, and Blue says, "Show yourself." Enter Koga. Red says, "You, the one from Mount Moon." Koga says, Yes, the squirt who spoiled my carefully laid plan. I'm one of Team Rocket's elite triad, Ninja Koga." Red says, "As if Team Rocket had an elite anything." But Blue glares. Koga says, "Wouldn't you think a team of evildoers could build a base without all these annoying interruptions? It's perfect for us since the simple townsfolk blame everything suspicious on ghosts." But Blue calls out, "Charmeleon, attack!" Charmeleon breathes fire, but it passes right through Koga. Blue says, "Just a projection?" Suddenly, an Arbok appears. That's low-key one of my favorite Pokemon too, but not my favorite. I like Arbok though. Koga says, "And you were complaining about being a zombie slave. If you just stayed that way, you wouldn't have to die now." What did he say that was? Venom. Arbok spews venom at the two of them, and Red dives out of the way. As Blue races out, Red says, "Where do you think you're going?" Blue says, "Follow me if you feel like seeing tomorrow." And they're chased down the stairs by the Arbok. Red calls out, "Are you nuts? You're heading back towards the zombies." Blue thinks to himself, Koga is controlling his Pokemon from a distance, which means as Arbok nears, Blue brings out Charmeleon, saying, "Charmeleon, reflect." Charmeleon does just that and knocks back Arbok. Koga is outside the tower being held aloft by his, what is it called? Golbat. There we go. Golbat. He's watching from a monitor, seeing through Arbok's eyes, saying, "So, the reflect defense. Forget it. Not even fire can stop Arbok's acid." And Arbok spews his acid over Charmeleon, and it begins to melt. Koga laughs, only for Arbok to be cut in half by Charmeleon's tail. Jesus, brutal. Much to Koga's shock, Blue says what the zombie Arbok melted was just one of its master zombies. Yeah, that was not a zombie Arbok. That was just an Arbok. A trainer would have seen that easily if he had been here. Blue looks at it saying, Red looks at the downed Arbok saying, "Ooh, this Blue is good, not that I'll ever tell him that." Koga, while still outside the tower, destroys his little receiver, saying, "I won't forget this, little worms." And then we cut to outside the tower, where Fuji says, "There you are, Red. Thanks to you, this town has life again." Oh, and that's it. I feel like there was supposed to be something else at the end there. Hold on. Yeah, okay. Fuji says, "And my little one will rest easy at last." But Red turns to the departing Blue, saying, "But he's the one you've got to thank." Oh, Red says, "Oh, geez, I wish I could tell you I did it, but he's the one you got to thank." And Blue takes off down the road. Red takes off too, saying, "Okay guys, let's roll." Alright, and that's the end. Kind of weird how the version I had just kind of cuts off like that. This series has started very breezy. I really don't remember a lot of this, but it's been so long since I've read this manga, and I was mostly reading scans back then, if I'm being honest. But reading the more official version is a nice change of pace. It takes a lot of liberties, but so does the original anime too when it comes to the dub. It's just interesting to see a lot of the gym leaders being out and out villains, because usually the gym leaders are kind of like the elite people in various different regions and all that. They kind of keep the peace more or less. But it does make some degree of sense that some would be actually kind of evil, you know? Not good people, all things considered. So it's odd that Brock was pretty much a non-character, just an obstacle. I'm so used to seeing a Brock who is a little bit more involved and more of a character, seeing one who just kind of comes in, fight me, and that's about it. It's just kind of like, oh. It's also interesting that both chose to have these legendary Pokemon introduced. Although with Ash's journey, he sees a friggin' Ho-Oh before we even know what a Ho-Oh is. It just looked like a giant glowing pharaoh at first. But here, Red encounters Mew very early on. So, you know, both destined for great things. I'm just interested to see where things go with all of that. Because I only ever made it so far, and having gone through this, I'm starting to wonder, did I really actually read what I thought I read? But it was a great time. And I know that it gets more intense as it goes along. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. This was a volume-long read-through, so bear with me. But it's about the only way to really get through things. But considering how much ground they covered, getting through the anime is going to be a bit of an ordeal too. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed the ride. Thank you so much for watching. And until next time, I've been Duuz-Diz-Din, and I hope to see you later. Till then, take care. Bye-bye.